Thursday, May 11th, 2017, to be at our 10 o'clock agenda meeting. I'd like to ask Mr. DuPont to say our pledge and Mr. Beard to say our prayer.
Please stand, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now say the Lord's Prayer. Our
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Thank you all. Before we go through our cards, we're going to go through administration first.
Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. First of all, of course, we want to acknowledge those families and businesses that suffered some damage last week across our area. You know, it's pretty interesting seeing those photos of Pecan Island that basically looked like Montana in December. Hail everywhere. Just damage was, significant, and you have residents who were just getting back into their homes from the August event being inundated again. So our prayers go out to all of those individuals. The state master plan has made it through its first group of committee review, and for us in Cameron, the changes were significant and they were beneficial. We had requested Gulf shoreline protection be included as the top priority for our area. Shoreline protection is now in the state master plan from the Calcasieu Ship Channel all the way to the Vermilion Parish line. So significant win for the police jury. Projects deemed viable in the Southwest Coastal Study have also been cleared as being consistent with the state master plan. The Southwest Coastal Study was around $3 billion worth of projects. So it's good for us to get our blessing on those projects. It's just increasing the list of projects from which we could fund some of these restoration techniques. The non-structural aspects, so the housing elevation or relocation or buyout program, those are all referenced as being voluntary throughout the entire plan. And the watershed management study that we had requested specifically is already moving forward with other funding sources, and so those were all encouraging. A couple of things that we came up a little bit short on, namely the state's policy that the maintenance of navigable waterways, specifically the outer reaches of the navigable waterways, is a federal issue, not a state issue. We did not get any movement on the policy that only 25% of a project could go towards navigable waterway shoreline protection from the state's perspective. So for our case, the GIWW that seems to be expanding and expanding, and it has no rims. That project will still be a problem for us going into the future. And also the Cameron Coastal Master Plan was not clearly acknowledged in the study as we had requested. We know that the CPRA did not have time to reference or analyze all the projects in our program. However, in the Southwest Coastal Study, the local plans were at least acknowledged. So we did come up short on a couple of issues, but I think we made great progress on specifically that Gulf shoreline protection feature that was much, much needed. In the fiscal year 18 annual plan, which allocates money for this next funding cycle, it was amended to include all of the Cameron projects. So all of our projects in our Cameron Coastal Master Plan were at least listed in the annual plan. Again, that is just the first step towards getting some projects funded. Last week we had Coastal Day and Police Jury Legislative Day in Baton Rouge. We had some pretty good discussions with many different legislators about coastal issues, infrastructure issues, funding issues. I think that for Legislative Day, it was always good for the jurors to sit down and visit with with our counterparts from across the state, find out what their concerns are, maybe what they're dealing with. You know, sometimes we feel like we're isolated on an island and we're the only ones that have issues. But I tell you, it's like a counseling group when those brewers all get together, because a lot of times we exhibit the same shortcomings as our sister parishes. The Grand Lake and Creole Town Hall meetings were held since our last police jury meeting. I think we were all certainly encouraged with the turnout, the dialogue, the questions, the answers, just the interaction with the residents. I think you should be very proud as a jury that you caused those events to happen. Your constituents are going to be much more educated now than they were prior to these events on many different issues that we have ongoing in the parish. Kings Bayou, the water control structure, is going to be on your voting agenda. Those bids were opened on April 20th. We wanted to note that there will be a shortfall in grant funds that is going to be covered by Gravity 4. They've allocated the funds to cover that increase. However, the budget for that project was $1 million, with $400,000 has been allocated for the overage from Gravity 4. But the bids came in $123,000 under budget. $123,000 under budget. The drainage board, Mr. Doxey was president at their meeting, recommended that the jury accept base bid, which again was $123,000 under budget. As it stands now, Ms. Armental has estimated about $100,000 will be the liability of the drainage board out of what they had allocated. So that's really good. They can put that money to another project. That's exactly what we're supposed to do here at the jury. On April 19th, we had Mr. Beard participated in a dedication event for the Creole Canal structure. You had representatives from DU, landowners, state and federal agencies, and private businesses who all played a role. I'm proud that the jury had the foresight to allocate funds to that project. You looked at what took place last August with that flood event, the water that was transferred through that structure that helped our residents for thousands, tens of thousands of acres drain through those little structures. And so the funding that was allocated through CAP assisted in having a much more efficient structure there in Creole. So we are proud of all the efforts for the individuals who caused that to happen. And we're certainly proud that the police jury and the drainage district played a significant role in that. The QUIPA program, they're actually meeting today. We have one of our projects that was ranked the #1 project out of all QUIPA projects submitted. That's the good news. That is the Sabine Marsh Creation Cycles 6 and 7, I believe, ranked by the technical committee as the #1 project in the state by 20 points. Wide disparity on the between the #1 project and the #2 project. However, that's the good news. The bad news is it was ranked as our 7th most important project from the parish's perspective. So we reviewed the projects, we provided guidance on why we thought some projects were better than others, why some projects were more important, why some projects may not work, okay? So there seems to be a little divergence between what our priorities are and those members on the technical committee for the QUIPA program. As of last Thursday, I requested a meeting with the CPRA to better understand their votes in particular. We had some projects like the Deep Lake project at Rockefeller, which was supported by landowners in 3 different parishes and other state departments. The governor himself had toured the site, and so we thought we had a decent chance for it to get in, and it came out second to last out of all of them. That's difficult. So we have to understand how we can improve the projects, but also we have to improve our lines of communication clearly, because it seems as though there are some things being lost in translation, and that's putting it lightly. But we're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that. And hopefully we'll have some landowners that'll come and assist us in getting some attention. Finally, this past Tuesday, of note to the jury, House Bill 444 and 445, which is the pilot legislation. This is being sponsored by Representative Seabaugh, who is from Shreveport, and it is co-authored by Representative Broadwater, who is from Hammond. This is a bill that clearly states the process that a pilot needs to go through. It is based off of what we just tried to do in Cameron. It's a streamlining of a cumbersome process. We were fortunate enough, we had a delegation there, Mr. Doxey, Mr. Hicks, Mr. DuPont, Ms. Sheila Miller, President of the School Board, John Koenig, and Mr. Williams and myself. We did provide testimony on the record supporting the legislation, which is 100% permissive. It is 100% voluntary. No one is forced to participate, either a local government authority or a company. So it was interesting to listen to the dialogue, and I think that there was certainly a lot of information that was bantered about, and the committee was very supportive. In fact, I think they voted unanimously for it to move through committee, and so that was encouraging. Again, this is only the first step of many steps, but it is the beginning. What was unfortunate is it was opposed by our local parish assessor. And so, we were of the understanding after the town hall meetings that we were going to work as a cohesive unit to try and get to a legal document. I think that was everybody's concern, and I think that was discussed at length. And it seems like there's going to be no movement in either direction from the assessor's office. And so I think it was a little disappointing for us that even in committee, that first step would be opposed. And so we're going to continue to monitor the progression of the bill, and we'll keep you posted. We were already present, provided our comments on the record. We're going to follow this through the House floor. Hopefully when it makes it to a Senate committee, we'll have the opportunity to go back again and tell our story. And that's what we did. We didn't educate people on pilots and all this good stuff. We explained our circumstances in Cameron and how each individual parish has different circumstances, different goals and objectives at different points in time. This bill only provided flexibility. That's it. And so we have before us an opportunity to get that process continued, and we're going to stay engaged. With that, I will entertain any questions.
The article in the Lake Charles American Press yesterday or the day before, the assessment attorney still has the numbers messed up.
Well, in the Grand Lake Town Hall meeting, which I think it was April 19th. My dates are starting to get mixed up. Almost getting as bad as Mr. Park. April 19th, I believe, was the first time we were told that the 30-year depreciation life had changed to a 20-year. Because other parishes were contacted and they were asked, what do they use for plants similar to that? And 20-year life was used. The 30-year life is for salt caverns. So we did have some agreements from the assessor that Friday. New numbers were provided using the 20-year life, which cut the $2.5 billion number or the $2 billion number, which was the total projected tax revenue, down to $1 billion. So now we getting a little bit closer, you know. So those numbers provided by the assessor, we felt were much more accurate, not because they were conducive to our argument, but because they were based off of facts. They were based off of reality, okay? And so that's why we appreciated the new numbers, because I think we've made it very plainly stated that the old numbers maybe weren't as accurate as they should have been. What was disappointing in the American press So the Grand Lake Town Hall meeting, we find out it's a 20-year life. The Creo Town Hall meeting, we show the numbers, it's $1 billion. There's no disagreement from the assessor. He agreed, yes, these are the numbers. We shouldn't, it was inaccurate depreciation table usage, okay? What was upsetting in the American Press article is that now the assessor's attorney, in the same article where the assessor was quoted as stating it's $1.1 billion according to LED data, the assessor's attorney stated, yeah, I know what he said, but he only said that because he was requested to crunch the numbers one more time. And so I'm not sure what that phrase means and why that's any different than providing the numbers as they provided the numbers in October and in 2015 and in 2014. We asked them to crunch the numbers quite often. Because as the Third Circuit told us, it's their job to crunch the numbers. So here we are asking for the crunch numbers to be better informed. We get the updated information. Mr. Eddington stated that the 30-year life is still the more accurate numbers, even though that's reserved for salt dome cabins. So maybe they have an understanding over there that the tax commission may amend the depreciation table as they do every year, which is part of our statement. So maybe they think LNGs are going to be listed with salt cabins. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, last October, they weren't, and today, they aren't. Period. Neighboring parishes, same thing, 20-year life. So we're comfortable with the 20-year life. That $1.1 billion with the 20-year life, though, is still with 143 mil. We also understand now that's not going to happen. So every day, the longer we prolong this issue, the longer we deliberate this issue, the more and more facts are coming out, and the closer we are to getting what we expected from the very beginning. Accurate data that can be relied upon and agreed on by all of these entities. And so I'm not sure where we go, I'm not sure what that means when the assessor is quoted stating one thing and then his attorney is contradicting him one sentence later. I don't know what that means.
In a 20-year life, that's some LED about the salt dome. We're not making this up or just reading this. This is coming from the.
That comes from the tax commission. That comes from the tax commission. And each year they update that table. And in fact, 2016 was the first time salt domes were ever listed. Yeah. So.
Did he get up and speak in Baton Rouge, or did he just oppose the paper?
No, sir. He submitted a cord in opposition. There was no testimony provided. No, sir.
Anybody else?
And just a note, y'all would have been proud of Mr. Bouillon and Ms. Miller, their testimony.
We're always proud of him.
Oh, they did a really good job.
There is some other opposition from a group called Together Louisiana. You can look them up, but
That's the woman that talked?
yes, sir. That was Miss Ann Dunn.
Put her in her place.
Correct.
She talked a little bit there.
If you recall, at times you would get mass emails to all the taxing districts from the assessor's office stating how much money we were giving up. We issue industrial tax exemptions. Cameron had been impacted more than any other parish. $4 billion of our ad valorem taxes had not been collected due to the industrial tax exemption program. There's a reason that number is that high, guys. It's because we have $30 billion in construction. It's correlated to the amount of investment. So if we didn't have that $30 billion of investment, we wouldn't have $4 billion of waived property taxes. Do we want to forego the $30 billion just to prove a point that, well, at least you're not giving up that money in tax exemptions? But we are collecting money from BIACs and Browns and Youngs and RV parks, and our landowners are making a little bit of money. Our locals are starting to get some jobs. I've heard 3 young guys just got hired at Chenier. One of the gentlemen spoke to me Friday. He said, "I hope y'all had something to do with it. We appreciate that." So it's happening. There are other things to focus on here besides how much money has been given up in ad valorem tax exemptions from these LNG companies. Are we focused on it? Yeah, it's probably impacted us. It's probably impacted us a little bit. We probably could have done some things with that money. But the goals and objectives and the vision of the jury is for a sustainable, lasting parish. Those companies help us get there. And it was a little upsetting to have someone who may have never stepped foot in Cameron Parish try to make decisions on behalf of your kids and grandkids and my kids. It was a little upsetting to not be able to respond to that. But maybe they know things better than we do. You know, their specific comment was, I'm getting off on a tangent here, but their specific comment was that local elected officials are going to have to deal with these big corporations, and that's going to be difficult for them to handle. They're going to be outmatched. But don't these assessors who are elected in these local parishes, don't they have to deal with these same companies? So apparently you are handcuffed and you are incompetent, but other elected officials in the parish are okay. You can't handle the big companies, but others can. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. And for the record, we stated that our taxing entities, 9 of them, all approved the same document, which was very impressive, and all approved the document that when you take into consideration the prepayment years, would collect $49 million annually once they had come on the tax roll. That's a lot of money, considering Calcasieu Parish collects 51 from their top 10, and we collect 11.8 from our top 10. It's a significant amount of money. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see how this bill plays out. Of course, we're going to continue to monitor and be supportive, but we do have some concerns with what has transpired in and around this bill from other individuals who maybe haven't had to walk in your shoes and deal with storms and deal with some of the circumstances that we have dealt with, and feel that this is an adequate way to move forward. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Mr. Boryok, and we are proud of our staff. We really are. We appreciate what y'all do. And I apologize for not getting to the cards earlier, but I didn't have all the information that I needed. We have a few guests that I'd like to recognize. Ms. Lauren Casanova with Senator Cassidy's office. You want to say anything, Lauren?
Oh, just thank y'all for letting me be here. If y'all ever need anything, call me.
That's a mistake.
Yeah, don't say that. I'll give you Ryan something.
She told me not to call her out, and Ryan agreed. And we also have Mr. Garrett Broussard and Mr. Jude Como with T. Baker Smith. Thank y'all for being here. We have Ms. Cindy McGee here with Chenier. Thank you, Cindy. We also have Mr. Ronnie Doucette from Johnson Valley Fire Department. He was his captain with him. Thank y'all for being here. Appreciate it. We do have a speaker, Ms. Katie Barnes. Her subject is Cameron Parish beaches and beach nesting birds. With Louisiana Audubon.
Yes.
I got some stuff. How y'all doing this morning? Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Katie Barnes. I work for Audubon, Louisiana. I've been living in Cameron Parish for 2 years now. Absolutely love it. I am a northern transplant. And you can't get me away from Cameron Parish. I love it so much. I am here to talk to you today about a few things. I have a few concerns here in Cameron. Cameron Parish beaches. So for Audubon, Louisiana, I work on the Coastal Stewardship Program. I study the beach nesting birds that are using the open beach to nest and raise their young. Right now, we're in the middle of nesting season. Birds are starting to lay eggs. And there's a few issues that I have going on right now. I monitor the beaches from Holly all the way to Rockefeller. So it's a tall order for one person to be managing, and it's a lot of walking. But I have a few things I wanted to address here. So I have a few photos that I may pass around of there's now a new ATV track that somebody has made through the dunes at Broussard Beach in Cameron. I have some photos here just to kind of illustrate it, because I know that just kind of saying, you know, people are driving on the beach. Obviously, we all know that, but to see the damages and to see I feel like it goes a long way to have a visual of what's going on out there. So right now I am in the midst of the season. I'm working with a lot of the different restoration projects that you've just discussed. The marsh creation, they're laying the pipe over at Holly Beach. I'm working closely with them to make sure that birds are staying out of that area and not nesting in the construction zone. So anyway, I have a few things to mention. I would like to put up more of these signs out there. We put up these last year. So we fence areas where there are large numbers of birds, so that way people know to stay out, and gives them a little bit of a buffer so that the birds can live and have an opportunity to raise their young. So basically, the birds, I know not everybody, you know, kind of cares about the birds, but just from a conservation standpoint, I mean, we're talking about the Gulf Coast, the shoreline protection, and the birds are a really good indicator of our coastline health. And if the birds were to disappear, we know that we're in trouble because there's something going on. So it takes a community to work together and make this work for everybody. And I know that we can share the beach and be mindful of these birds. They migrate, but they're protected by law under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. They migrate from the tropics. They come up here this time of year from April to August and raise their young, and then they migrate back. So once an egg is on the ground, it's actually, by law, you can't touch it, you can't mess with it. They're completely protected. However, so we put these signs out because not everybody is familiar, and they're very well camouflaged in the sand, the chicks and the eggs. Last year, it went pretty well. I had a lot of success over at Holly Beach. So I have a request. This Saturday, I'm installing this fencing. Right now, I'm going over there later today to see what's going on with the birds. They are starting to stage, so they're doing a lot of pre-nesting, courtship type of behaviors. I have some nests that I found just 2 days ago. So they're starting to lay their eggs and they're starting to initiate nesting. However, they're still not all decided on where they're going to end up. And so I'm going to go out and try to GPS and map an area of where I'd like the fencing to be placed. It's an area that we fenced last year. It's just east of the Holly Beach town. We meet at Barataria Boulevard at 8 a.m. on Saturday. I'm kind of in a bind right now because I had a person that was going to be helping me with four-wheel drive. I know we were just talking about driving on the beach. I know it's kind of going against everything that I've just said, but I do need a vehicle to get the posts out there onto the beach, and I know where to drive because I have all of the nests GPSed. So I kind of know where it's safe to do these types of things, and we have to work fast because there's already eggs on the ground. So if you know anybody that has like side-by-side or something that I could, anybody that would like to help post these signs and get the rope out and zip tie signs, I would greatly appreciate that. So we're going to work on that this weekend. I'm going to hopefully figure out where the birds are nesting. They all have minds of their own and they'll just pick wherever they like to nest. So I need to figure out a buffer zone and an area where I can fence prior to Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day weekend is very stressful. It's a very hard time of the year. So is 4th of July weekend, simply because of the traffic. Which brings me to another concern is the Texans are coming over a lot more now that Texas coastline has banned all vehicles on their beaches, and so now we're getting a very high flux of beachgoers and traffic on our beaches. And these people, again, are driving on restoration areas where we've put millions of dollars into protecting these areas, not only for the birds, but for ourselves, dune creation, marsh creation, all of these restoration projects, beach renourishment and replenishing with sand. these are all things that we should protect. If we're gonna put money into them, we should protect them. And of course, I'm talking from a bird standpoint, but I'm also talking from a human standpoint. We need to protect our roadways, we need to protect our coastlines. So that being said, if there's any way we can figure out how to regulate that a little bit better, especially on the Holly restoration project, that's all the new beach, which there are Texans going out. I had a bunch that I told to kind of get either below the rack line or get off because they're not supposed to be up here. But I'm one person and I'm not authority, so they kind of don't listen. But anyway, so I'm just proposing all of this. I just want y'all to be aware. I would like to put up some kind of area at Broussard Beach where the photos that were taken. I'd like to put up an area where I could just fence to give the birds some area to nest. The people that are going to continuously drive on their ATVs up and down Broussard Beach, it actually holds a very high density of Wilson's plovers, which is a nesting bird here. They're very sensitive to disturbance, and they are not doing well over there because of all of the human traffic in the dunes where they lay their eggs. So if that's okay with y'all, that would be good to be able to maybe come up with a solution there. I know that beach driving is a big concern, however, it's something that's not going to go away anytime soon, I don't think. It's just the nature of the beast. But I do appreciate the new signs over at Holly Beach this year. I noticed right away the new beautiful blue signs that say beach rules, and on the beach rules is now it's saying, shorebird nesting area, stay off the dunes, don't drive beyond this point, those types of things. Great things happening here in Cameron, and I appreciate that. And I hope that the community will work with me and protect these birds. This is their home, this is their habitat, and we can share it with them and be respectful. So, thank you.
Mr. President. Katie, thank you for coming and visiting with us. I'm gonna hijack what you just said and, provide my own self-interest, some light being shed here. Does the Audubon Society have an interest in these Gulf shoreline protection projects?
I would reckon so, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any connections with any state or federal agency who are placed on the QIPRA Technical Committee or Task Force, that being U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or the CPRA
I
or
believe,
Wildlife
yeah,
Fisheries?
I know folks that are part of those projects.
NIMS and the Corps. This past QIPRA funding cycle, no demonstration projects were selected. Demo projects are very important in the process. It's where we find out, with spending a smaller amount of money, what will work. So the Rockefeller Gulf Shoreline Protection Project was a demo project with 83 different alternatives analyzed, and the ideal alternatives now going to be utilized in a $31 million project. None of these demo projects were selected.
Right.
There was the decision made that none of them were, for whatever reason, adequate enough. Yeah. And I think that there is some dissension amongst the board members, for whatever reason, to construct shoreline protection projects, regardless of what type of construction, whether it's rock breakwaters or oyster reefs or some ash mixed in with the shell hash, which was supposed to be demoed in the Rockefeller area. We may need some help in addressing the concern because, we have issues in protecting the people too.
Yeah.
And that Gulf Shoreline Protection Project can work for everybody. It can protect the bird habitat. As the piping plover, we nominated the East Holly Beach Shoreline Protection Project 9 years in a row. And this year was the first year we made it past the first round. And it got slammed after that. But we have had no luck in bending someone's ear. So I appreciate you taking the time to come today. And I'd love to sit down with you and figure out a way that we can bring about this awareness. Maybe I'm not articulating things in the right way. I think with your institutional knowledge, we can maybe work something out and bend the ear of some of these agencies who are making these decisions on our behalf. So hopefully we can work through some of these issues. I'd like to get with you after and discuss some of the other
Sure, yeah, that would be
action
great.
items. also.
And also, just kind of going off of that, but not from the big projects point of view, but just the community point of view. I do a lot of beach nesting bird awareness outreach and stewardship tabling events. Throughout the summer, I have a schedule with all of the Cameron Library branches.
Good.
I've already done a few. I had the Cameron middle schoolers, the 4th and 5th graders at Rockefeller yesterday. They had a lot of fun learning about beach nesting birds, and we were hiding camouflaged eggs in the gravel and showing them how they can blend in and easily be stepped on or run over. They learned a lot, and those types of things, getting involved in the schools more here in Cameron, and making sure that the locals are aware of what's going on out there and why we're putting these signs out would be a huge help. And like I said, the driving on the beach, obviously is a huge concern. It's not only for running over chicks, running over eggs, but you're flushing the adults off of their eggs in the heat, in Louisiana heat, which is the eggs can cook in minutes. If you keep the birds away from their nests for too long, they can lose them pretty quickly. So spreading the awareness, just sharing the beach, being mindful that there's fencing out there. I have a schedule of events. I have crafts at the libraries, and I have different clubs that meet up with me and they learn about it. So if there's anything that y'all would be interested in me talking to, I'm all ears for that too.
Thank you, Kate.
Yep, thank you.
So where was this picture taken at?
That was at Broussard Beach,
Where was this
right at the beach access point. It's through the you go through the marsh. It's become, unfortunately, a dumping zone. I don't know if y'all have been familiar with the area, but Broussard Beach Road, if you take Bobby's Lane and you go down onto Broussard Beach Road, and you go down just a ways east, if you look off to your left, you'll see a bunch of people threw a bunch of garbage, old couches and exercise machines and whatnot. It's a dumping ground. I took a picture of that too, but I forgot to print it. But going into there, the only way you can access that beach is actually via the marsh. And so people that only people that have been that discovered it are people that have ATVs, and so now they've gone through the marsh.
It looks like to me there's a fire track, some kind of heavy equipment.
Yeah, that's because there's so many trucks going in there now with their trailers, and they're going in there with multiple ATVs and just going up and down, and so now it's become like a racetrack.
Yeah, but there's a tire track here, look like a piece of equipment.
Yeah, I know, but those are just ATVs with giant wheels. I've seen them on there. Yeah, and side by sides, they have huge tread on them.
If I could speak for a second, we actually had a gentleman come by here the other day and got with Cassandra, and she sent him to the sheriff's office that had drove his pickup truck and was fishing out there and was stuck. So there's actually big vehicles too that are going out there.
Yeah, so
He's got four-wheel drive, they're going.
yeah.
Well, like you said, with the influx of the people from the west and the influx from the people from the north, the east of Holly Beach, we've been trying to protect that, and we can't seem, they run over our signs and
Yeah.
pull our signs up, use them for campfires and everything else, so.
Yeah, it's a battle.
We've been trying to keep
Yeah.
that area, pristine, but there's no possible way of doing it.
Rutherford Beach has signs, but Broussard Beach does not have any signs. Like I said, Broussard Beach is kind of like a hidden gem. I mean, it was always my secret favorite beach because when I would go out there, it's usually just me and the birds, and it's a really nice beach. But now it's become, what's that?
Bring those signs with
Yeah, I have signs. I mean,
you.
I can put them out, but I want to make.
Bring you out there tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
You got a post or you
I
got
have posts, yeah,
metal post?
Yep.
Good.
I have posts. I just need to.
I help them out all the way down.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Like I said,
No, we won't have to.
it's just a tall order because I have to get Holly fenced Saturday, and then Broussard is going to be my next task.
Got about 30 or 40 rows of fence
Okay,
at Rutherford Beach left over.
yeah, cool.
And
Yeah.
also, before you leave, we have, I'll get with you because, get in touch with a couple individuals that,
Yeah.
especially in my district, in Holly Beach and Johnson Bay, that's been working diligently trying to do exactly what you're trying to do.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. I've been in contact with some really nice folks over at Holly Beach that have been helping with those types of things, and I'm obviously very anti-riding on the beach, driving on the beach, so I do everything on foot, except for scenarios where I have to carry a lot of posts, then I have to kind of do that, but,
You know, your
Yeah,
designated
sure.
area you are,
uh-huh,
they start to park camp up there.
yeah,
Even though these signs are there, but they're far apart.
yeah,
I was gonna see
Yeah.
what's up closer. And
Okay.
in the road, where they go up, or rather the middle of the road.
yeah. You mean at Broussard?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
The Rutherford Beach.
okay, in Rutherford,
Towards Jetties.
yeah, yeah,
You had that,
yeah, yeah,
you had your little area, of grass,
yeah,
they get in there.
yeah.
You just gotta make sure there's the iron signs, because if you put wooden signs, they use the park.
Right, yeah, no, they're metal signs, and then these are also metal, these don't melt, so.
Katie, we also have a Coalition Restore Coastal Louisiana planting for Rutherford scheduled for June 24th.
Sure, yeah, I've been in contact with them. I was in contact with them last year when they were doing the coastal planting at
Yes.
Rutherford. So yeah, I'll be in contact with them. Right now, I don't have very high densities of breeding birds there because the habitat has shifted so much that they're not favoring it, but I was just there this morning, stopped over at Rutherford to see if there was any lease terns starting to nest in that little area when you first pull into Rutherford. There's that big open area where there's a road through it, a dirt road. There's usually nesting lease terns in there, and there's a few flying around, but they're not dive bombing me and acting like they have eggs yet. So I'll fence it once they do start acting like they have something.
It also has something to give you from Gabe Giffen. Well, that Gabe Giffen asked me to give you some.
Sure, yeah,
Just stick around.
okay, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. All right. We're gonna move on to Road and Bridge.
Good morning. I've been contacted by Gravity Drainage District 7 to see if they could come in and cut Parish Road, which is 511 on Branch Street, to install a culvert. And I want to see if I could add that to the voting meeting this afternoon for y'all's approval.
You okay with that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the only other thing you'll see on the this afternoon voting list, it's an agenda item, and is for us the state to renew the grass cutting and the litter program that we do every year. That's on the voting meeting already agenda.
Did they go up with it?
No, sir.
And went down?
No, sir. Stay the same.
Stay the same.
Stay the same.
They still wanna cut 14 times.
Actually, it's like 4 times.
It is now. That's what they pay us for.
That's only what they pay us for.
Oh, that's what they pay us for.
They only pay us to cut it 4 times.
They only pay for 4.
Full cut for the year.
Hmm.
We used to do 14, and we cut it down to about 7.
And that's all I have. You don't have any questions or anything?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dillon. OEP.
Gentlemen, let me introduce, this is our OEP director, Mr. Danny Laverne. I know it's been a while since Danny has actually been here. We've enjoyed those 3 months hiatus of heaven for us, but
And she was a lot prettier, didn't she?
yeah, a little bit meaner.
And I don't know why I miss these meetings, all right?
How long you gonna talk?
Somebody pulled this string.
That's enough.
No, last week with the weather events, with the rain and the wind, we come out pretty good. Jeff Davis had lost a few broken poles, and we had power outages. On the east end of the parish, isolated areas got as much as 20 inches of rain by Lowry and Klondike. We only had one road that was underwater, which was Streeter, and that's common, with a lot of water across the pastures and so forth, but might give you a chance, they might have to be able to assess, y'all trying to work out some drainage over there, so take another look at that. Some of those close calls, the people that just got back at home, almost got flooded again. We had a handful from August event. But during that event with the power outages, it gives us some 911 issues. When the power went out of the generator, our 911 system was down for as long as 10 minutes. But no need to worry, because automatically it rotates to this route at the Cockshoe. but we're trying to resolve the issues. It normally boots up to the server, stays down, so have to do a manual reboot and so forth. So we're still working on that. They don't understand why we might have to change out the server. Anyway, we worked those issues
And
out.
that's through who? Is that Louisiana Radio?
No, that's what we threw, Calcu, we piggybacked on their system. It's Calcu now one, so
So
they,
that's the problem in between you and them.
yeah, and we're working it out. We put up some UPCs, but that's only good for the console, but not for the server. So they might need a software update because it's taking too long to boot back up.
And the generator kicked on?
Oh, yeah, we've done a tested before the storm and we was acting down for less than a half a second. And, but we had on and off outages and it might have, messed up the server because it don't want to come back on.
Does it have any kind of battery UPS?
Yeah, UPC, yeah, that's what it is. We put those, it's only good for the console, but not for the server. It doesn't do any good to put it on the server. Because the generator's right there, it comes on, but it's not booting back up, and we think it might be a software issue, it might have, it's
But if you hook the battery system to the UPC, you won't ever work.
that's what I'm trying to tell you, because for some reason, it won't boot back up
Because you lose the power.
for less than a half a second. But they are hooked up, it's not booting back up, and that's why we think it's a software issue. Because it was fine, all testing, we tested once a week.
UPC should catch it way faster than a half a second. Like,
No, it's there, but it won't reboot, is what I'm saying.
Throw it out the door.
We're gonna move on. During the month, we conducted an interagency meeting between the sheriff's office and the fire department and the ambulance. Have to say it was very productive. We had a good roundtable discussion because we had communication and record-keeping issues. It was very beneficial. Not to mention any names, but there's a squeaky wheel in Johnson Bayou. And we give him the grease when he comes. But we come up with a plan and I think it's gonna work out well. And we're gonna try to have these meetings about every 3 months, just stay on top of everything. So it was very beneficial. I'm glad that we had that.
Picking on you, Ron.
Well, we're trying to.
He got grease on his shirt? And it's him. For the hurricane season, last night I conducted a hurricane preparedness meeting in Prio. We had 2 speakers, Mike Parent from Department of Public Health and Roger Harrison with National Weather Service. Mike had given the slideshow on the Zika virus, very, very informative. Spread out the hurricane with all the mosquitoes over here, how to protect yourself, put the mosquitoes in the Zika virus. This year, the forecast for the hurricane season is below normal activity for the Atlantic basin. But on the flip side, it's usually more aggressive type weather for Louisiana, not so much Cameron. The El Nino won't kick in until about July, so with that being said, we have greater risk or a chance of getting a storm from the Pacific side in the month of June, in which next month is the 60th anniversary of Hurricane Harvey. So whenever a storm comes from the Pacific side, it kind of makes me nervous because your timeline to evacuate and get prepared is very short, maybe 5 days. You know, like I said last night with the Atlantic Basin, they talk about 4 weeks before it even gets around here. So you have a better chance of getting a storm inside the Gulf in the month of June until the El Nino kicks in. So the message is to always be prepared.
So we talked, Andy was at the mutual aid yesterday and he talked about it and said that, it's below normal, but we still got it.
Yeah, it's aggressive weather. It could look last year we had all that flood, same thing. We'll have wind shear for the Atlantic Basin type of storm activity. So it just makes me nervous on this side. Also, there's a House Bill 138 that's trying to be pushed through, and it's reference for the industry to be electronic, tier 2 to be on the electronic system. They tried to pass that 3 years ago. We were not for it, and this time they try to bypass all the directives and try to run it. Because we really don't benefit by having everything on the cloud. It adds a burden to the industry because it costs them $25 to $50 per employee to have these credentials. We still like the state plan now. We have one-on-one relationship with the industry. They come to the office, we get the letters of access and so forth, and I still like that. So it doesn't benefit the parish at all. It benefits the vendor and the state. That's the way to make money. So we're not partnering. Hopefully it don't go through again. That's all I got. You got any questions? Oh my, yes. This come up, the MOU between the Cameron Parish Wildlife Refuge, the MOU that we sign every 2 years between the Sheriff's Department, the police jury, and the refuge itself to have us another location to relocate in case of evacuation or anything. So it's gonna be an ad on the statement by the authority to sign it. So, thank you, Mayor.
Anything else? I guess there's nothing else. Okay, we're gonna move up to B. Economic Development, Ms. Claire.
Good morning, gentlemen. We have some good news regarding the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. As you already know, that is the commission that oversees the permitting process that the Federal Energy Regulatory, the part of the Department of Energy oversees. It's been some time now that that commission has not been at a quorum, which means that the permit applications for liquefied natural gas export facilities that have been before the commission, because there wasn't a quorum, there wasn't a decision made on those permits being granted. Now the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, is at a quorum, so we anticipate seeing additional permits for construction to begin for liquefied natural gas export facilities that are on the docket, so that's good news. Always working, coordinating, supporting all the projects that are proposed for Cameron Parish out of the port. Tunie are working, providing information like waterworks capacity, climate information for the parish, rainfall totals, economic impact on other industries that are present in the parish. So there's lots of information sharing coming out of the port. One thing that I'm really looking forward to is working with the Business and Career Solutions Center out of Calcasieu Parish, which does serve us here in Cameron Parish, on a work experience program that utilizes federal dollars from the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So there's several $100,000 available for us to identify students and local businesses that the federal government will pay the hourly pay for these students. These are students who have to be qualified by the Business and Career Solutions Center. I'm hoping that the Port Commission will want to participate. Our May 30th meeting will take action on that. The school board, May 8th, adopted the program and are going to find positions for students who qualify. These are students who are ages 16 to 24. No business or government entity is exempt from this program. Everybody can participate. So it's a way to have the federal government pay the salary, the hourly wages of some of our students here in the parish, keep them here working when there are opportunities. So the port's going to participate for that, taking away the part-time pay that we had last summer. So we're replacing it with no cost to us or the jury. News on the Hackberry Sportsman's Lodge, which is the hotel being built in Hackberry. We're so excited about. Looks like they'll probably open around the beginning of July. I'm working with the owners to host ribbon cutting, so that's another reason to celebrate. And I mentioned earlier when Katie was at the microphone, the Coalition Restore Coastal Louisiana will have another Rutherford Beach grass planting on June 24th. Last summer, Mr. Doxey and Mr. Fountain were there. Certainly invite all of you to participate. And we'll get the information out to the schools, so hopefully we can get some young volunteers to help us. So unless you have any questions, we'll wrap it up.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions, Claire? Thank you, ma'am. Hopefully we can get more people out this year on the plant web.
Yes, sir. I think we're looking at 7,000 to 9,000 plugs, so it's not, I mean, can be in and out of there in a couple hours, it's not real. Yes, exactly.
Thank you very much. My favorite, housing. Did we have an incident on the house?
Yes, we did. Last Tuesday, I believe, we had one of the houses caught fire in an affordable rental program that was caused from a grease fire in the kitchen that they did not get under control. The insurance company has come out. It is gonna be a total disaster, and they have already started hiring the contractor to rebuild. It's gonna be rebuilt just like it was,
So
and the
it-
insurance is
it's
gonna pay.
destroyed, or?
Yes. Deemed it a total loss. I think he's relocated the family, and they have some donations coming up, that's around the parish through the school. We have a poster here for any clothes, toiletries, and stuff like that.
Let me ask one other thing, this might be a stupid
No,
question,
that's-
but, has he thought about doing a little, training or something with these people, especially,
I don't know, I know one of the questions that came up was the, exit routes, because he was not required on these houses to have anything other than a front door. There are no ladders that he's provided in the houses for people to get out through the windows. So if their front exit is blocked, they cannot get out.
Thought he was supposed to have a road ladder.
He was supposed to, but he went to the fire marshal and it's not required,
that's.
so he did not put it.
He was supposed to have those in there. So he's jumped back, he's cut back on his, contract.
It actually was not stated in the contract.
I don't know what the contract calls for, but this code does not require a rope ladder to be in there.
But I thought it was an understanding that he was gonna have these in each and every house.
I didn't.
It was discussed, but he's not, you can't be forced to, can't be forced to make him do it, unfortunately.
And only one door is required on the residential. Okay,
As a fireman, I think that's stupid, I'm gonna use that word.
I understand.
Well, Cameron Fires, who actually had originally brought up the only one exit, because I mean, you're what, 15 feet in the air? You can't get out. Luckily, there was no injuries at all,
Well, that's good.
so,
Okay, I'm sorry.
no, that's
In
fine.
the event of an injury in his, he's responsible.
He is liable, yes. He has complete insurance on the houses. Unfortunately, the people that rent them, the only insurance they would have is if they purchased an additional renter's policy. So like in this case, they didn't have anything, so whatever they lost, yes. And that's why it was set up for the, donations for the family.
Each sleeping room is required to have a bed, a window 5.7 square foot at the opening, which that was all man. That's your emergency egress.
Emergency egress, 15 foot in the air with nothing to get out.
Right.
I guess they expected to jump sooner or later, the fire department.
Any more questions about that?
No.
But it's already been investigated, it's covered, he's already got with his contractor, and it is gonna be rebuilt, same place. On the first-time homebuyer side, I actually closed on the last one in the program Tuesday. So there's an item on the voting agenda for the president authority to sign the closeout packets, not only for first-time homebuyers, but also the rehab and the incentive. And there's also, gonna have to be a budget amendment done, because we're gonna have some monies left over, so we're gonna move those into infrastructure projects where it's needed. Have some good news on adjudicated property. We have 49 that we sent, well, we actually had about 70. 49 of them have some issues that they're working through, so they're not actually on the website yet, ready to sell. As soon as the issues are worked through, they're gonna be put on the website. We have 25 that are listed on the site, waiting for someone to make a deposit to where they can actually go to auction. We have 2 that someone has put a deposit on, and they're gonna go to live auction August 2nd. Everything is done online. If you put a deposit on a property and you end up not buying it, you get your deposit back. You just have to have a deposit to open the properties for auction. There are gonna be signs placed on the properties that are ready for sale tomorrow, and they can go to www.civicsource.com, and there's a tab that says adjudication sale, and they can click on, it'll list the properties, and they can click on the property and it'll map them of exactly where they're at. If they have any questions, they can call me, and I can get them in touch with Civic Source if I don't have the answers.
Is
But
that, did we put that in the paper?
it's been in the paper, I've had some calls already. I had a call last week, I was not even aware it was in the paper, but they said they saw it in the paper, so. It's moving along, some of them are moving a little slower than others, but at least we're moving forward to get some of these properties back on the
So
tax roll.
all these are at auction online?
Everything's done online, yes, sir. It opens up, and you can put bids, you can watch bids, and say like at 8 o'clock when it closes, if there's some closed bids, they extend it until all the bids are finished. And then they take their percentage of whatever it's made, and then we get the rest. There's also an option that Ryan and I talked about, decided to get into, it's called a bundle. If the properties sit out there for 3 to 6 months, and say an investor or a person calls and says, hey, I wanna buy 5, nobody's looked at it, nobody's bid on it, put a deposit, they will get a break. It's no cost to us, it actually comes out of Civic Sources funds for them to sell 5 properties at a time or 20 properties at a time. They'll get a break on the cost of each property, but we're still gonna make the same amount of money. Civic Source takes the cut. So that's gonna be an option for us if we see they're not selling to where, well, if you buy 5 or more, you get a cut, or if you buy 20 or more, you get a cut.
So in the event someone puts a deposit down and they get outbid, they get their deposit?
Yes,
back?
sir, yes, sir.
And where's most of these properties at?
They're actually all over.
All over?
They are all over. We have some that they're working on that was adjudicated back in the 1920s. Yes.
We've never sold one.
And we've never had an adjudicated auction. So this is a first. So we definitely want to get the word out, you know, that we had over 300 properties. We started with, I think, we were down to like 187. And thus far, we have 25 ready to go, 49 they're working on, and 2 that's already got deposits on. So it just took time, but it's moving along. Also, we have some LLT properties going up for auction. Some LLT properties, Louisiana Land Trust properties, the 7 properties that we got from the Henrys on Holly Beach for the sewer plant, when that fell through, they reverted back to him and ours came back to us. So we have 7 properties on Holly Beach and 1 here in Cameron that the auction actually opened May 1st. This was also in the paper, and it will run through June 1st. The signs are on the properties, and they can go also online to www.svnauctions.com.
Is that on the east end?
Mhm. It's 7 lots. I have the addresses of each one that's up for sale.
Is that adjoining, Mr. Henry's property?
I'm not sure if it's adjoining the Henrys. I know it adjoins some other people that's interested. And I have sent their information to the auction company to get with them. And then I'm also gonna make a phone call to them since it's open and ready to go, that they can go ahead and go bid.
They're spread throughout the subdivision. They're in different
Yeah,
units,
they're-
block groups. They're all over. Some of them have 4 lots, some of them don't.
Some have 1, yeah, because we looked at all of them. But I have a map of where they're located and how many it is, and the street names, it's the addresses. Also, we have an important date coming up, Monday, June 12th at 2 p.m. in Grand Lake. We're gonna do the Terry Cox Road dedication. It's gonna be, the road part that we're given is between Hackett's Road and Cox Road. Chris with the Sheriff's Department is gonna get with me and give me some more information of where we can park and exactly what takes place. I do know the road's gonna be shut down around 2 o'clock, at least 1 lane, and we're gonna do that. I had saved the dates, so anyone that's interested, please try to make it. It's a very important event for one of our fallen officers. And that's all I have today.
Mr. President, can I ask a question? Mary, you may have, I mentioned this already, but are there any Cameron Speaks houses available right now?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's probably at least 10 to 12 available.
I get asked a lot,
Mhm.
and I give them the information to who to contact, but I don't
Well,
know if they act on
Actually,
it.
you can give them the number, but she's not there, so they can just contact Greg directly, and I also have an email, I'll forward it to you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Send me the emails on the properties too.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
Okay, permitting.
I'm gonna bring up something that's kind of old for us, and I've discussed with y'all in the past. In 2013, we had a community assessment visit with the state. What that is, they come in and look at some of our structures, ask about permits, ask if, if there's enclosures, did we flood vents and stuff like that. About 2 years into it, the state got it, the feds got involved, FEMA Region 6, and they started asking about our accessory buildings, detached accessory structures, and why we don't have size limitations set on them. It's not in our ordinance, it's not in the federal regs to even have a set size, there's in a handbook recommendations of 500 to 600 square foot, and that's what they expect us to use. We've never regulated accessory structures as far as size goes. We went ahead, but the regulation that we did do on them was the flood vents and wet flood-proof material and things like that. They have, for 2 years, they've sent letters back and forth to us and Ryan and the jury, some to the president, telling us we need to enforce it, we need something from y'all, we need something. Me and Ryan reached out to Senator Cassidy and they responded to him and really didn't get nowheres on it. The last letter I've got was in 2015, they're still talking about it, but since then it's been just phone calls. What are y'all gonna do? When y'all gonna do something? We need to know, we need to have a set size. I did talk to them again. Some other things that we did too, we contacted 26 other parishes and some of them's the cities of local in Louisiana. And 16 responded. We asked them some questions about their accessory structures. What size do they regulate, if any? And we got some response. I wanted to read them. 6 of the 16 regulate through their zoning ordinance. They didn't refer to flood or nothing. They just regulated through their zoning ordinance, and I guess that's good enough for FEMA. 3 of the 16, they got theirs set at 1,000 square foot, which the federal government did accept. 3 of the 16, and I'm gonna tell you, these 16s are in the CRS program where they get breaks for flood insurance for the residents. We're not in the CRS, but 3 of the 16 have no size limit at all. Okay, 3. One of them said at 4, one said at 5, one said at 6, and 2 of them says all accessory buildings must meet, but they're in different circumstances. We're only talking about accessory structures, detached accessory, not agricultural. It's connected agricultural, there's no size. They can have whatever size they need, we just need to permit it the correct way, show that they got farming equipment, or they farm rice, or cattle, or whatever, which, that's the majority of our parish. They're willing to let us, we get to a point now that they're threatening for probation. We don't want to give them probation.
Let me ask you this, Miles, what dictates, what rule, law, or what if state regulation dictates that we can tell you that you can only build 1,000 square foot building?
Well, we did adopt an ordinance. It's not in the ordinance, but we adopted our flood damage prevention ordinance. And then you talk to FEMA Region 6, they say that's your ordinance, you administer it the way you want to administer it. The federal, FEMA, it's not in their federal regs, but it's in their handbooks. They're saying their handbook is regulations set forth by them and that we need to abide to it, which is 500 to 600 square foot. They say they're bending to give us 1,000 square foot. I tried for 1,200. 1,200 square foot is a 30 by 33.3. It's 999 square foot. So I was trying to negotiate, because we had talked about that. Y'all wanted a 30 by 40. Maybe we get a 30 by 40, which is 1,200. They're not willing to go to 1,200. The laws that dictate, I'm guessing it's using the FEMA regs that's out there, what's in the handbook and the recommendations.
And on these buildings, and we've talked about it already, can you only have one on your property?
There's no set number on how many you can have, so if you want 2,000 square foot accessory buildings, is they willing to give us 1,000? Nothing over. You can have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, as long as they're not touching each other, they gotta be detached from each other. So if you got 1,000 square foot here, you can have another one here and one over there.
But we are talking accessory buildings.
Parking access or storage only.
Right.
When you do an accessory building, if you permit one for 1,000 square, you do what we call a non-conversion agreement, where you can't convert it to an outdoor kitchen, or things like that. You can't be living or nothing, it's gotta get parking access or storage only, but we protect ourselves with that. That's for buildings that's going below the base flood elevation in a flood zone. If they meet elevations or if they're in egg zone, there's no concern, it's only for buildings that's going in a flood zone. I'm kinda to a point, been going on for 2 or 3 years, we tried everything, we sent letters to the state, we sent them to FEMA, we sent them to Cassidy, we sent them, and there's some correspondence back and forth. We discussed other parishes, why they don't have to enforce theirs. We went to neighboring parishes, talked to them, some have them set, some set them to their zoning. They really want us to do something, and they're threatening with the probation.
If we don't adopt something and put us on probation, that means everybody's flood insurance goes up in the parish?
Well, once it goes through and it's approved by FEMA, because it goes to the headquarters in Washington, I was told, yeah, it will affect everybody that has a flood policy. It will go up by 50%. If the jury don't address it,
50%?
$50 per policy. I apologize, not 50%. $50. I'm glad you
Still,
told me.
a lot of the flood policies are so high now, $50, that's,
$50 is gonna be added to each one, and it goes to the congressional delegation. They will know, and every landowner in Cameron Parish that has a flood policy.
We're talking about 1,000 square foot accessory building.
Correct.
That's a pretty good sized building for an accessory.
I think we ought to move on.
We get a lot that's over 1,000 that's requested and asked. A lot of these do fit in the category for the cattle ranchers down south, in the north too, and you
And I think
few farmers for ag.
what
And
we need to help out on that side is see what they're putting in.
we don't wanna get to the probation point. And I know if we don't do something within the next 3 to 6 months, we're gonna be there.
I think we ought to move now and go ahead and do the 1,000 square foot. They can put more than one on their property, without touching. Because we can't afford, I can't afford another $50 on that young unit.
I feel like we exhausted as much as we could trying to get more out of it. As y'all know, I've been talking about it for 2 years. I mean, every 6 months I gotta bring it up because I'm getting stuff from them requesting.
I'd like to move this forward. I'd like to move forward to the voting meeting this evening.
And one of my questions with them would be, I called again this morning, David Eagle's not in, there's another guy to talk to. Do we have to do it as we could wait it before we vote on this actually. Do we have to put it in the ordinance? That's my question this morning, so he couldn't really answer. Is it changed to the ordinance, or is it policy procedure that we adopt something like this? So before we vote on something, I'd rather wait till I get a correct answer from him, because this morning he couldn't answer that question.
Okay.
Now, we need more around it, because really the last letter I got was November 2015.
I think the board wants to go ahead and put it in your hands to get you to go ahead and get the information that you need and then.
Tell them that the jury's really want 1,500 square foot.
I pushed real hard for 1,200.
they turn in 12, but we don't go for 15 now.
Well, you can negotiate.
Yeah, I like for you to, my opinion, I like for you to go and get the information that
If we get
you
1,000.
need, and if we can get it at 1,000, I'd be happy with that.
Let me get it clarified with a letter signed by them and telling them, because I want to know really if it needs to go in ordinance. I hate to amend ordinance, we amended it today for something, but If we need to, I will, but if they tell me we don't need to, because they done said it's other parishes do not have it in ordinance, the reason being is they got their own inter-office policy set. If that's all it's gonna take, then we'll set our inter-office policy and move on with it.
Yep, I'll be good with that.
I think they're.
Well, you know,
So if you'll do that, Miles, you'll,
okay, and another thing, once we get past this, if we get this and they approve, this is gonna close a 4-year CAD visit that we worked on. Of course, it don't mean they can't open another one next year, the year after. But at least we got another step, so I'll get more information to bring it back to you for the next meeting.
all right, sir. Go ahead.
So I am, unless you want to discuss some changes, you want to vote to change the appointee of the floodplain administrator this evening. Take it off of Ryan's hands, and
I thought it was reappointed.
I can reappoint anybody I want in the room, it don't matter.
I think she'll do a good job, too.
Who's that?
She will.
She? But just want to recommend her, that's y'all.
I got 2 questions for you, already quick. What are you classifying as a trailer park? How many trailers do you have to have in a certain block?
RV park or one you factor
RV
on?
park, illegal RV park.
We're kind of using 2 or more at this point, I believe, correct? Yeah, 2 or more, because normally it's for rental. It's kind of like if it's for rental, we're gonna classify it as an RV park. That means you're gonna come in and rent your spot, you go out, but clearly own it. But if an individual just comes in and says he has a lot in Holly Beach where it's for him and his son, and they approved for 2 sewer systems, well, they can't do it in Holly Beach, or let's do it in Cameron, then it's, you know, it's privately owned, but they're not renting them out. Does that make sense, Connie?
That's two's all I need.
2 or more.
Now, I wanna let y'all know, y'all pass it on, when they do apply for a permit, like 20 or 30, each drop for sewage is gonna cost $5 a month, whether there's a trailer there or not. Water board change that.
Okay.
And
They are
my
required.
second question,
They are required to go to the water board here in Cameron and get a letter and bring back to us, and they gotta fill out all their stuff, but we can still inform them.
but I mean, you just let them know it's gonna cost them $5.
Yeah, they may
And
change their
whoever
mind.
builds it, if it doesn't fill up, if you got 30 slots, you only got 10, he's gonna pay for all 30 drops. $5 is not much. And the second thing that seemed to be lost in transactions somewhere, where are we at on the grass ordinance? I'm about tired of this. I wanna get some bites.
That's something we have to, we're gonna have to discuss.
We'll get this pretty soon, I wanna get some bites.
I really wasn't tasked with the grass ordinance when we did it the first time around. I believe there were some other people tasked with the grass ordinance. Ryan, I'll be able to help you with.
You wanna do it?
I think we need to,
You and me.
we do need to discuss that, but,
We had a lot of hiccups.
That was 8 months of pilot ago, so let me go pull, that was 8 months of pilot ago, so let me go pull our grass and weed ordinance filing cabinet, and I'll get it on a dolly and bring it out, and we'll check that
I'll go
out.
there when you talk to the resident.
Yeah, we'll go check it out.
Mr. President.
They call it a bird lake.
yes, sir.
I did, if the jury would want to talk to, I think our region says today, somebody from their office, I do have him. He will make himself available if anybody wants to have a discussion on the phone with him. Just throw that out there. I don't know what Brian wants to do.
I don't.
Sound like we're kind of good.
We might have more than 1,000 square foot.
Yeah.
I just don't know what's the difference, or why there's if you put flood vents and you put this, what makes it up, the size?
It's debris, they thinking debris below the base flood elevation. So if you get a storm, there's more debris generated because of the waves, and that was
But if you get
what I was told this morning.
And you can do more than one.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
The square foot of impact is, but don't try to
Well,
rationalize.
we don't wanna do that. We
We don't want to confuse us with facts.
We sent them letters, we did all that, you can go back and I can show you the letters that me and Ryan sent them, and that was all discussed and talked about, and it's kept going, they didn't even pay no mind.
Well, the insurance told me, State Farm said we got from the bottom of this seal up, and down under, it's flooded. So I said, you go sit down.
Ronnie, you got something?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna give the board just a copy of, our fire district's, leave policy and holidays set forth.
What are you requesting?
Well, I'll give you this one for, what it is, we're going civil service now, same as Cameron is. By the last year, the fire board 10, adopted the holidays, same amount of holidays that the parish has. But we move holidays, for example, this year, I believe Christmas Eve is on a Sunday this year. I don't believe the parish gets a day off for it. So our people have to, there's gonna be a time that Christmas Eve falls on a Saturday and Sunday, and the person that works Friday works, the person that works Monday, are getting the holidays, and the people that actually work the days are not getting paid for the holidays.
I don't know why a local fire district ought to have holidays. You fight fires, you don't have holidays.
It's set forth by, they're still on duty, they're getting paid holiday pay. Let me back up.
It's all about double pay.
Well, what it is a person that's not working the day, the state law mandates the holidays, the number of holidays. The jurisdictions are able to move the holidays to, and the way it's set up, most jurisdictions allow the boards or the authority, for a city, for example, they make exceptions for police and fire that work the actual holidays. It's different than administration that works Monday through Friday. So the actual, if you're on a fire department and you only have actually scheduled for 3 holidays that year, you only get 3. The administration gets the actual 14 holidays that's set forth because they actually move the holidays around to make sure they get them. That being said, if you're working away from your family on the Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, you're not getting compensated for it. But the person that comes in and works the Friday before or the Monday after, that when the jury moves the holidays for administration, the people are working the holiday without getting compensated for it. And we had been paying them, we were not aware of that. The state examiner's office sent that back down to us, saying that we need to address it with the jury, and they need to make a resolution that passes it back down to the local boards. We were under the misunderstanding the local boards had that right from the beginning. We didn't understand that. So, without a resolution from the jury, and you can see we have the same number of holidays that the parish has. But for example, we as a board chose to give them Easter Sunday as a day they get holiday pay, as opposed to Hurricane Harvey Day. We just moved the holiday around. So
Well, I wanna understand this a little clearer. You're gonna, this coming Saturday and Sunday, we got a holiday coming, that's Christmas Eve, Sunday.
Yes, sir.
You gonna work?
The guys are duty.
Wait.
I don't get holiday paid off.
You're working.
Okay.
You gonna work Christmas Eve and you gonna work Christmas Day.
Yes, sir.
I'm off.
Yes, sir.
Or you want me to get paid for that too with you?
No, sir. It
No,
doesn't affect you.
it's just you.
It's just the firefighters gonna do it.
And you gonna get paid. You gonna get paid your whatever, right? And your overtime or whatever.
I don't get overtime, but the firefighters.
You working, you're a firefighter.
Hypothetically, you're a firefighter.
Good job. It's part of the exam.
My captain right here works Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. The way it's set up now, if it's on Saturday and Sunday, he doesn't get paid anything extra.
He doesn't get paid no extra?
Because of the way the jury sets up their
Our holidays would not be on that weekend. It would
But
be-
the guy that comes in Monday to relieve him,
We don't work on weekends, but y'all work 7/7.
no, sir, we work 3 and 6.
Okay, whatever you work. You're 3 days on and 6 days, I don't care.
Yes,
You're
sir.
getting paid when you're working, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But the state law requires that for the holidays, you pay them 1.5 times. So we're paying them half time in addition to their normal salary.
I said civil
Look,
service.
y'all
Or double time, isn't it,
I think we
maybe?
need to let them set their shift, their holiday schedule, but
It's the same
they
one.
can set it the same amount the dope people got. No. So what the dope people get off 4 times a year? 4 days. 4 days a year?
It's,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, all we're doing is collecting social service.
All we're doing is, and this is not.
No, they're gonna set their,
Dan,
they're gonna set their schedules.
Everybody, if you look at your, or most people, if you look at your holidays, if your holiday is on a Sunday, you're gonna get, a day off on Monday. Because the holiday falls on Sunday.
Yeah, but it don't work for people that work 7 days, 24/7.
It just changes
They
the
need
pay
to
scale.
adjust
Yeah.
theirs
Yes, sir.
to suit, they work 24/7,
Yes, sir.
you understand?
Yes.
The parish and all the other entities don't work on weekends.
Yes, sir.
So they adjust their policy, their holidays according to how they work.
Yes, sir.
And that's all you're wanting to do is adjust your holidays, not get no more holidays,
No, sir.
just adjust them to
Yes, sir.
actual people working.
Yes, sir, and that's
So-
every January, we, probably the same as the jury does, we decide the holidays, or probably December, we decide the holidays for the year, what day they'll be recognized. And,
So on Christmas, it could be on a Tuesday and Wednesday, your holidays, or it could be on Saturday and Sunday.
yes, sir,
But if it's on Saturday and Sunday for the parish, it would be Monday and Friday.
yes, sir, that's correct. And by law, as the civil service says it, by being under the jury, we have to follow the same holidays that's set forth by the jury, and the jury's got it set up on different days than we do at work. It's not fair for the employee to work to not get compensated for it, and somebody else come in the following day and get compensated for it.
I don't think it's an issue.
In my opinion, he needs to get with Darrell, and they need to work that out.
It takes a.
They're not increasing the number of holidays.
Not at all, that's why, that's why I gave you the
They
copy.
take
They're
action.
not increasing the number of days, the days are the same that we have, they'll just be different days, and they'll set those.
Just like we,
Yes, sir.
They get paid if they work for holidays.
Yes, sir. Does the police, I would think that maybe that's already in place in the parish, I would think that the deputies, if they work the actual day,
Nope.
also they do not get a penalty.
Everybody wants, if you stay long, you'll have.
Okay, well, that was recommended by the state examiner that I come here, and we had actually, the board had been doing that, not knowing that we were in violation. We did the last 2 years.
Now, the board's gonna set that.
Yes, sir, that's all, they wanted you to pass it down from the jury to the board to be able to set the actual dates of the holidays. Fireworks.
I'm good. Does it take action from the jury?
The only lawful, but the administration goes to the holiday, but not your response.
They actually told us we could separate, like the
Give them
secretary
authority to do it.
could fall, could be in line with the parish, if that's how the board chooses to do it. The fire board chooses to do it. So she,
There'll just be a policy change on our behalf.
no, sir, we work 24 hours a day for 3 days, no office.
and then we'll,
Yes, sir.
then we decide.
I think come for when we do all that, usually in December, they'll submit their holidays for that year. And then, I mean, they'll submit them, basically, they'll have the authority to do it, and we'll just incorporate them into that
It's not
schedule.
giving them any more days.
No, sir.
It's changing the day.
That's why I brought the rules, so you can see it is in line with parish policy.
Present it to us, the resolution or whatever.
Yes.
Unless you don't want to go to that film schedule.
We try to stay in line with civil service and everything recommended by the state examiner in case it ever goes to litigation, but we're not exposed.
That's good.
So,
I guess the adult people
Quit picking on my dog.
They might have tested that.
You and Darrell, like I said, you're not asking no more days.
No, sir, just clarifying it. It's more procedurally than anything else.
Mary,
No.
I got something before we leave out here, okay?
Okay.
All right, if that's everybody, we'll review our agenda.
Oh, you might need to go to the doctor.
Yeah, don't be spreading that all over these people out here.
Only one I'm coughing on is Darrell.
Yeah, then give it to Gerald, please, I'll give it twice.
Malo, that's in the old son, that DPM ago?
Yes.
vehicles, we send it to the auction.
It's,
I'm talking about sending vehicles to the auction, what you talking about here? Huh?
13.
13 though?
That's how many that are selling.
You knew you was gonna start up.
It'd be all right. It's all right, Lee, we're good.
Same deal, it's 8% commission for, same deal, 8% commission for William. That'll be June 3rd. Draw your attention to the meeting, that we're gonna revise the meetings. There's some Friday meetings. So we've, Mary went through and tried to reconcile everything with the court dates. We'll move them up to 3 o'clock, the voting meeting. The agenda meeting still at 10, voting meeting at 3. If y'all are good with that, because there's 4 Friday.
Move it up to 3, I'm happy with that.
Trying to work it up, you know, trying to work it out with everybody's schedule and the court, also. You know. And the July meeting would be at the school board office.
Where is it on here?
Yeah, it's
It's on under the voting,
Way back.
item 14.
On 8B on renovation project. Environmental review board, if we have categorical exclusion.
environmental certificate.
Yeah, we just,
When we shift funds, you have to have a new environmental that covers every dollar that you expend. All this is doing is covering that increase, that scope of work with that money that was transferred.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
that was a accounting thing.
Who's gonna be, on that, item 13, the designated record?
I'm currently,
You are still?
yes, secretary.
All right, okay.
Okay, anybody have any? Well, good.
Done.
Everybody good? Anything out there?
Well, a special meeting on, May the 23rd, 6 o'clock in Grand Lake to levy taxes. So just a
A what?
special meeting at 6 o'clock at Grand Lake at the satellite office, that county agent office, May 23rd to levy taxes.
Send some reminders out.
Oh, no, we will, just to let y'all know that we're gonna send out the agenda and all that. Just to let y'all know that's coming up, because
Matter of fact, email or reminder.
yeah, oh, no, this is just to let, just,
You don't
this
have
is,
no time off.
you're gonna get
You don't have no
email.
time off, My shift work is.
Anybody else have any questions?